these disciples, they experienced 3 different storms that day. The first storm was the storm of circumstance. There was a storm of a literal physical storm. There was wind and waves. And this was the storm that they experienced. And the waves start crashing over the boat. And there's wind and rain and waves. And they're getting afraid. And this first storm triggers the second storm. And the second storm is an emotional storm, where now they allow fear and anxiety and worry to creep in. Now the storm is not just outside, it's inside. And now they're afraid, they're terrified, saying, we're gonna die. And then the third storm comes shortly thereafter, and it's a spiritual storm. A spiritual storm where the fear and the anxiety and the worry turn into doubt. Why are we even following this guy? I don't even know if he even cares about us. Do we ever do this? Do we allow the storms in life? Maybe you're facing a storm, a physical storm, a health storm, a financial storm, a relational storm. And that storm of circumstance turns into an emotional storm. And now we allow fear and anxiety and worry. And if we're not careful, it turns then into a spiritual storm where we begin to doubt. We get upset and we begin to doubt. Continuing on in the story, in verse 39. When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, silence, be still. 3 words. Actually, if you look in the Greek, it's actually only just 2 words. Silent is one word, be still is another word. Peace, be still. Silence, be still. He says these 2 words, peace, be still, silence, be still. And it says suddenly the wind stopped. And there was a great calm. Like it wasn't one of these, like delayed miracles. 30 minutes later, it just gradually got better over the next half hour. Maybe it was chance, maybe it wasn't. It was still hairy there for a few minutes after he said that. But eventually it calmed down. No, it says suddenly, it's like they're out there and there's wind and there's waves and it all stopped. Not just the wind, but the waves also just stopped immediately. There was a great calm. And then he asked them, why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? First, Jesus rebukes the wind and the waves, and then he turns around and he rebukes his disciples. He rebukes the wind and says, peace, be still. And then he turns and says, why don't you have any faith? After all you've seen me heal the sick. You've seen miracles. You've seen these things happen. And after all that you know, are you still going to freak out with a little storm? Isn't my presence greater than your problem? Isn't the fact that I'm in the boat with you greater than the fact that there's a storm out there? In your notes, God's presence is greater than our problems. God's presence is greater than our problems. See, I would rather be in the middle of a storm with Jesus than in the calm without him. I would rather be in the middle of a storm knowing Jesus is there, even if he's asleep on a pillow. I'd rather know that he's there with me, that his presence is there with me. I'd rather his presence to be with me than to be on a calm, sunny day without him. The disciples, if you think about it, the disciples were just as safe during the storm as they were after it stopped.